When a Game 7 is being played, it transcends sport. It becomes bigger than that. The opportunity for us is to share those stories about how people at the elite level not only prepare, but execute under the most extreme situations. Everybody at some point in their life is going to be faced with those critical decisions and in those Game 7 moments in your life, no matter whether you're an artist or a musician or a businessman or a politician or whatever.
How do you respond?
How do you respond?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to KindredCast, where we shine a light on the people and ideas shaping our future. KindredCast is a production of Kindred Media, powered by LionTree.
All right, welcome everyone to KindredCast. I'm Alex Michael, and today I'm joined by an amazing duo. And I have a long history with both, one who knows of that history and one who was just part of my history. I'm talking about Mat Vlasic, who I grew up with here, and we'll talk about why that's all relevant. And, of course, the captain, Mark Messier, of the famous 1994 Stanley Cup champion Rangers, and, of course, a Hall of Fame career overall, and much, much more. We'll get into it. But Matt and Mark, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Really excited to do this, again, given the history and just how exciting, your guys' trajectory has been. We're here to talk about your new business. And it's one that I think most people listening will not have heard about. This is part of kind of unveiling it a little bit, so we're excited to share it.
This is a big reveal.
It's a big reveal.
Yeah, here we are.
The business is called Game 7. Game 7, which is a big term, certainly in your lifetime. And you've been a huge part of that. I think you were part of 9 Game 7s.
Correct, 9 Game 7s with a 7-2 record, which is pretty good. I'm pretty proud of that.
Not too bad. What was your plus minus?
That I would have no idea what it is.
We don't know. All right.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Stats didn't mean anything. There's only one stat that matters, the W.
There it is. That's the winner's mentality. So you both are just very accomplished people in your own rights. Matt, I think people won't know your story as well as Mark's, of course. Beyond growing up with me here in New York City, you have been in the music industry for a very long time. Had very successful runs. Most recently, you were CEO of Bravado, which is the merch and touring arm of Universal. Did I get that right?
Merch and branding.
Merch and branding. Thank you.
Correct.
And you worked with small artists, such as?
Rolling Stones, Kanye West, Taylor Swift.
Okay.
No, not small artists. I was very fortunate to work with some of the biggest artists in the world, and very fortunate to work with some of the biggest athletes in the world. So I've been very fortunate in my career.
So let's get into that. So before people are like, what's Game 7, what's Game 7, and then they won't listen to what we're saying. Matt, what is Game 7?
Well, besides the 2 greatest words in sports,
yes,
Game 7 is a performance lifestyle platform that we are building that will underscore the journey to success through content series, community experiences, and consumer products.
Wait, stop right there.
Yes.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Performance lifestyle business.
Platform.
I missed the platform. Very important.
Platform is important because it's the foundation of everything you build.
Okay.
Look, Game 7, as I just said, 2 greatest words in sports. I didn't coin that. Actually, King James himself did numerous times.
Which LeBron or the original?
No,
or?
LeBron.
Okay.
LeBron, the present day King James.
Okay, thank you.
And we really feel that it's important. And partnering with Mark, who's, as we discussed, played 9 Game 7s and amazingly won 7. We feel that it's such an important term, and not only an important term in sports, but one that can translate to everyday life. And as we were kids on that field in Riverdale playing football, it wasn't a literal Game 7, but I remember us always 4th quarter, 10 seconds left, and every kid has experienced that where it's bottom of the 9th or whatever it is. Same thing in hockey, 3rd period. And we think that those moments can translate. And if we can hear the stories from the greatest who played, like Mark and some of the others that we can talk about that are part of this venture, we think we can inspire people to really become their best. And ultimately just building this entire community around Game 7 and then bringing out different offerings for that community.
So do you own this brand? I mean, that's a good name, I must say. You got the name right here.
It's not a bad name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, we came across Game 7 and a small company that was doing some small product and stuff. And actually, the sort of story behind it is they had a picture of Mark in the deck. And one of our other co-founders, a guy by the name of Isaac Chira, was presented the deck to invest. And he phoned up Mark because he knew Mark. And he said, why didn't you tell me about this thing? He said, I have nothing to do with it. But if it's Game 7 and they have any rights to any sort of mark, trademark, whatever, we need to buy it. So they bought it. And
So you could buy Game 7. That's a thing you can buy.
well, you can buy. So from this transaction, they acquired certain trademarks.
Got it.
Just
Okay.
as with, you can acquire trademarks. Now,
Sure.
it's hard to trademark every single category, every single class throughout the world. But when we acquired it, they acquired it before I came on board. I met up with them, and our vision was grand. Mark's vision was grand. Game 7 was so important to him. He saw so many, spokes on the flywheel. And in order to do that, we had a lot of work to do behind the scenes before we brought this out. And a lot of that was shoring up trademarks, figuring out the classes that we wanted to operate in, and then going out and securing those. And that was a very long process. So you can't just go to the store and buy Game 7 per se,
Right.
but you can spend a lot of time with some great counsel and a significant amount of money and acquire the rights around that you need to build the brand, or we need to build the brand the way we want to build the brand.
Okay, so we got Game 7.
Yeah.
So Isaac knew you, Mark,
We're good friends.
and Isaac knew Matt,
Yes.
and you guys didn't know each other.
No.
And Isaac didn't know Matt either.
Oh, okay.
No. Me and Isaac had a mutual friend that we were
Got it.
connected through.
And you're like, guys, we've got this piece of gold here. We've got Game 7,
Well, we needed someone to harness all the ideas.
and bring it to life
and
because
bring it
it's
to
just
life.
an idea.
And
Execution
of course,
is
Matt coming from his
99%.
background is a perfect scenario for us. So we're grateful that Matt showed up on our doorstep and
I'm ready to go.
and kind of really kind of crystallize all the ideas that we had, but really kind of distilled it down into what we need to do first and foremost, build a community.
I'll just add to that. I've seen the power of community and audience around sort of rallying around an artist, right? Or a piece of IP. You could sort of boil that down, and you could say that about a Disney or a music artist, right? They are ultimately producing IP, and then there's a fandom around it, and then you monetize it.
Right.
And what I saw with Game 7, we did a quick little survey, not rep survey, like went through the motions, and 1 in every 2 people, it's like ingrained in them, and like we talked about before, being that little kid.
Yeah.
It's just, and even people who aren't super fans of sports, my mom, for example, she walks into me and my brother watching, and it's Game 7, or it's the Super Bowl, or it's the championship, or it's the 5th set, right? Any of these pinnacle moments where it's you win or you go home, and all of a sudden she's got the goosebumps, the tears are flowing, and it's a high drama situation. So we felt that there was so much opportunity around those 2 words, and then with the ability to have that audience, I just thought it wasn't much difference than one of the biggest artists in the world or one of the biggest pieces of content in the world.
No, it makes a
or
lot.
IP.
Looking from the outside, it's sort of strange bedfellows, but then when you unpack it, like you're saying, it makes complete sense of why this combination. And I'd be loath to not mention that you have a 4th partner. It's Dany DeVito. So help me understand how Dany DeVito is part of this mix, please.
Well, he's great friends with Isaac Chira.
Okay.
So that started there, and Isaac often asked him if he wants to invest in some of the things he's doing. He told him about Game 7. He really liked the idea. He liked the thought of what Game 7 represented in a lot of different ways, and he told us a story about what his Game 7 moment was himself, cutting hair in New Jersey, getting ready to come in and audition for Taxi, and came in there and picked up the script and tore it in half and threw it back at the people doing the interview. Said, "Who wrote this piece of crap?" And they go, "You're Larry." There's a Larry De Palma.
Oh.
Louis De
Louis
Palma.
De Palma.
Louis De Palma. Sorry,
Yeah.
Louis De Palma, and he got the script. But he reflects back on that going in there. That was his pinnacle moment. That was his Game 7 moment. That was his make or break opportunity to really do something and kind of get himself in the trajectory of the career that he wanted to pursue. And it's no different, performing under pressure. What allows us to, get out of our own way and perform in those peak situations there that, loaded with pressure, expectations, And he was able to do something that probably nobody expected at that moment in that interview. Like
maybe he didn't expect.
And he didn't. But whatever happened, he knew what Louis De Palma was and who he was supposed to be, and he nailed it. And he ended up getting the part.
And I'm glad we mentioned that, because this isn't just about sports. This is about life. And
well, I think the
what
question
this
we
is
want to
about.
ask ultimately, to move away from sports, because we think it's a much bigger platform than just sports, is because everybody at some point in their life is going to be faced with those critical decisions and in those Game 7 moments in your life, no matter whether you're an artist or a musician or a businessman or a politician or whatever.
How do you respond?
How do you respond when you're faced with some big decisions, and you have to make not only make the correct decision, but then you have to act on it and you have to perform.
And I took this from somewhere else, but I think you've characterized this as not sudden death, but sudden opportunity.
Well, I think if you look at it as an opportunity, and I think that word gets overused too much as an opportunity, right? But because there is a tremendous amount of pressure when you spend 82 games, 6 months, 2 months in the playoffs, and it comes down to two teams. They've battled each other 3 games apiece, and here you are going into Game 7. There's a tremendous amount of pressure and expectations, and of course someone is going to lose, and that's the reality of it. And I think that's what, to Matt's point of bringing in his mom to watch something that she's not even interested in, but she becomes interested in
the human drama, the performance.
Yes, all of that.
Yes.
And I think that's why when a Game 7 is being played, it transcends sport. It becomes bigger than that. So I think the opportunity for us is to share those stories about how people at the elite level not only prepare but execute under the most extreme situations.
All right.
I just want to go back to Dany for a second, because I think for me, hearing Dany resonates so much with Game 7. This is a guy who's not a massive sports, he likes sports, but he's not an athlete. But the way he he wears a Game 7 hat every day. Every day he's out there with a Game 7 hat. It resonates so much to him. And hearing his story and how much it resonated was almost a little bit of a validation that this thing can go further. 1 in every 2 people intimately know the name and understand what Game 7 is. That's pretty exciting.
It's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Well, we've got over 100 years of content already, and we're going to have another 100. We're going to have another 100 years coming in the future, so we're never going to be short of content.
That's for sure.
And
401 Game 7s have been played in modern sports.
Well, I like the stats. Okay, 401.
Pretty sure it's 401. Is that right? Yeah.
Across
okay,
the big 4 sports, I guess.
Big 3.
Big 3.
We're talking about
Baseball.
Game 7
that's right,
in
of
the
course, sorry, football.
literal sense.
Oh my gosh, the sports guy totally put that up.
But we should talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, we look at and we've alluded to it, but we look at Game 7 as the literal, which is baseball, basketball, hockey.
Yeah.
But then beyond that, right?
Super Bowl's a
the
game.
Super
broader,
Bowl,
the
obviously,
Super
is
Bowl,
a game, every playoff game in the NFL.
right? And we've talked to people. We were talking to McEnroe the other day, and he alluded to the 5th set was our Game 7, and talked about how he exactly. So we want to, and if we do our job right in the storytelling, we will be able to sort of break out of that. But even if we didn't, even if we just stuck in those 3,
so 401 across those 3 sports, that's a lot,
Yeah.
and a lot more to come. So it's going to be, it's the brand. We've got that.
Yep.
To your point, you mentioned spokes. So let's think of it as the center, as the hub.
Yep.
And then you're going to have these spokes that are content series, content clips. You're going to have merch. You're going to have events. You're going to have
community experiences, hospitality. We've got a lot in store, and we're excited to really start to unveil those. And really this, as Mark said, is what we've been doing for the last 2 years, and planting the flag that we are Game 7 and what we're going to do. And we'll announce some stuff, and then into 2024 we will continue to announce more and more stuff, and it'll be a nice cascade of exciting activity for us. But our focus here at sort of Game 7 team is really building the IP, building the content, and building the audience ultimately around that.
Right.
Because that's
that
critical.
Engagement.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Game 7, because I think so much of this, and why it's just so incredible to have you involved as someone who's really synonymous with that type of event. Maybe especially for New York fans, or especially Rangers fans, talk about, we mentioned you played in 9 of these things. Some of the most memorable, at least for this group, although we're giving short change to Edmonton. Apologies there. But For the New York, you played in 92, you had 1 Game 7, and in 94 you had 2 Game 7s. Of course, the Devils in the conference finals and then the Canucks to win the Cup. How did you do it? What is the secret behind Mark Messier and the performance in those moments?
Well, it's not I did it. I think it's we did it for starters. I think it all starts, I think, with a group of players that become a team. So many times players refer to themselves as a group, and a group is not a team until you've actually earned the right to call yourself a team through experiences, both through failure and success. So when I look back at 94, I think about the trajectory that when I first came to New York in 91, 92, won the President's Trophy, lost in the playoffs, which every New York team did at the time.
Yeah.
So the next year with a lot of injuries to miss the playoffs. So we kind of rode this roller coaster up all the way down to missing the playoffs and all the way back the third year in New York, winning the President's Trophy again, and then, of course, going on and having tremendous success in the playoffs. For me, when you say how did we do it, I think it was a collaboration of many things. It was a journey of commitment, of trust, of dedication. I think the pressures that we were under that year, it had now become 54 years since a New York Ranger team had won the Stanley Cup.
Right.
And everything that we did well that year was we were faced with, but in such and such a year, the team did the same thing only to fail in the playoffs or during the regular season, only to kind of flame out. So there was all that we're fighting against, the curses, the ghosts, the demons. But we had such an amazing team, both from a character standpoint and from a mix of young talent and hard, gritty veterans that blended perfectly together. Zero ego. We collectively, I think, went on the journey and felt the need to do something special for all the obvious reasons. Not only because of the organization, its history, the original 6, the 54-year-old drought, the fandom, the incredible, 4 generations of fans that were sitting in the stadium at any one time at MSG. But we were able to compartmentalize all that and really kind of just continue to distill it down to what we had to do. And I always say in big moments, you got to execute. And where you get the trust to execute is because of the practice that you put in, the time that you put in. Nobody was going to outwork us. We had convinced ourselves and trusted each other to prepare to the best of each other's ability. And so with that becomes this overwhelming feeling of confidence. Unfortunately, coaches and people can't carry 5 gallons of buckets and lay it on the table and say, "Here's your confidence." Confidence is earned, right? You have to earn confidence, and the way you earn it is through the work that you put in, and you know that you put in more work than the guy that you're squaring up against.
So preparation, practice,
but also the commitment and dedication.
But isn't everyone committed at that stage? You're in the NHL. You're on the big show. No,
I don't think so. No, because winning is hard, and playing in a winning program, everybody thinks it's really fun, and I want to do that. But when you get into a winning program, it's sure hell.
Yeah.
Because of the pressures, the expectations, you can never relent, and it's not for everybody. And you can play at the National Hockey League level because you're talented, but to commit to win is a completely different animal than actually playing the game just to make a living and play in the league. It is. I can only tell you that having experienced a few times and been on both sides of it, it's completely different.
Do you get nerves? Did you have nerves?
Well, I was nervous before every game I played because I expected a lot of myself, and I felt that nerves were a sign for me that I was ready. I shouldn't say never let. I learned to use the nerves as fuel and not get paralyzed by the moment. I tried not to get ahead of myself, think about the what ifs while the game was going on. Most people think that's you want to kind of not let those feelings in. I always felt that day before a game, it was important for me to think about failure, visualize a failure. What would it feel like for me to lose this game?
So that was motivation.
It was a normal stream of consciousness that you needed to allow yourself to work yourself through. Otherwise, it would be a tense moment for you trying to block it out. And so I wanted to be completely relaxed. And I think when you play your best, we call it the zone, but the zone is basically just a form of really mindfulness, awareness, and being present. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to find the zone on command. And I think most players
That is
just
rare.
wondered why they had a good game and why everything just went right for them. I was interested in why. I didn't want to just say, oh, I had a good game tonight and not ask any more questions. I thought that if I could play a game like that, how come I couldn't play a game like that when it mattered most? So that deep level of concentration, get rid of all the distractions so you can singular focus on what you need to do and then trust the work that you put in. To me, that was very helpful in big pressure situations.
You were able to tunnel vision. Like, did the crowd exist in these games?
Yes, I wanted to feel it all, and but at certain moments. So getting back to the day before, so I allow myself to fail, but then it always ramps up to success. So I've gone through the process of distilling through all these scenarios of what could happen, injury, something goes down, everybody's got a plan to get punched in the nose, as they say, all the stuff that could go on. But ultimately, as you get closer to the game, you start to focus in on success and what I need to do to be successful. And we've done this all year long. Every big game that we've played this year, we've won because we've done what? And that's what you focus in on. And by game time, you're just really kind of in that real sublime moment of concentration.
Clarity.
There's super clarity. I could be out talking to anybody and I'd feel so relaxed and comfortable. And
Is that what
in
you
those
felt?
moments.
There's the famous New York Post cover of Game 6 of that Devils Conference Finals where you said, I guarantee we win.
That was a little bit different there. That was a different scenario for me personally. I don't know if you want to get into that, but
Well, just quickly, I mean, I'm just listening to what you're saying, and then it seems like that journey you go on from seeing failure to seeing success, and I want to be on the success side, could bring a clarity and almost maybe a bravado about it.
Well, you got to believe you can win.
Yeah.
You have to believe you can win. And so, I mean, if you don't believe that you can win, then you have zero chance. And that was just an opportunity for me to let the team know that I really believe that we could win. There's no reason why we wouldn't believe we could win because we beat the Devils all year long.
Right.
We just need to figure out a way to play better.
Right.
We weren't playing poorly, but the Devils were playing great. So how do we? And that what you do is you look around the dressing room, you look each other in the eye, and you ask yourselves, do we have more to? Are we going to go home, or do you have more to give? Do you have more to give? Can you go further? Can you push yourself harder? Do you want it more than the guy next to you? And you have to have those kind of, conversations and be brutally frank with each other. And if you're not willing to do that, then you can never push yourself further because it's too easy to go home. It's too easy just to lay down when you get down and things aren't going your way and, well, it's not our year. But no, you got to. Those are the times where you
That was your leadership. That was the captaincy. It was trying to pull that. You did it for yourself, and there's leading by example. But then you were also pushing others.
Well, I think you got to lead from behind, and you got to pull up, and you got to push up. It's just the fact, and it was. And I had a lot of help throughout my career. I had amazing in '94 team. We had 10 guys that could have been captain.
Right.
So hence the book "No One Wins Alone."
And you had been there.
You can't do it.
Yeah, you had been there. Yeah, this was not the first
I knew what it
rodeo.
looked like.
Yeah.
I know what it's supposed to feel like. I know what it's supposed to smell like. I know the ambiance around the team that's supposed to be when you're there. We had it all. We just needed to figure out how to push harder and not let ourselves down. So that's what we did.
And what else have you learned or did learn or bring today of leadership? Because there's the Game 7 moment of just living up to that as a person, as we're talking about. And then there's the extra onus of you're the captain of the ship. How does that translate?
Well, I never
How do
looked
you
at
get
myself as a captain of the ship per se. I felt I was. I had the luxury of coming into the league as a fourth line left winger that worked my way up the lineup and and then playing behind Wayne in Edmonton and understanding every role in the team. I basically played every role in the team, so I understood the challenges of guys that don't get on the ice a lot, the feeling that they don't have that they're contributing. You know, how do you make them feel a part of it? You know, what is it that the validation that they need in order to, if they're only playing 2-3 shifts a game, if those 2 or 3 shifts aren't the best that they can to give, then it's not going to be enough. But how do you validate that that's what we need from you? Because normally you got players playing in positions that are overqualified on a championship team. And you have to sell the idea that this is what we need from you. If we're going to win, we're here to win. And the stage is big enough for everybody. And if you're able to get outside of yourself and your own ego, and you're able to, you know, do what's best for the team on any given night, even though it's not the perfect scenario for you, we have a chance. And so that, you know, you spend, you know, 6 months, 82 games, you know, selling this vision of how we're going to go about it. Because if you don't know where you're going, how the hell are you going to get there?
Right.
And how, you know, not only where you're going to go, how you're going to get there, but the roadmap to get there. And I'm sure there's going to be bumps, and you got to pivot, and you got to change strategy, and leaders make mistakes. I made a million mistakes, but if you build up the equity, the trust factor, if you make a mistake, then you can, you know, kind of pull back and go back around a different way, or do something different, or look at something different. But
do you think underlining that was, I would characterize as empathy, that the leadership, at least your successful leadership, had empathy, that you understood everyone? If you had been a phenom from the start, do you think you would have the same?
Well, Wayne was a phenom from the start, and he had empathy. He had the ability to get out of his head, his own head, to understand what everybody else is feeling around him. So I think it's partly learned from your childhood and your environment growing up, and I think it's also having been and seeing how championships are won. So I saw championships being won when I was a stick boy for my dad in junior hockey. So I saw how my dad galvanized this team through this concept of family and camaraderie, and everybody's in together, and under any circumstance, we're going to fight together. We're going to, love each other. We're going to, battle, and we're going to go through this whole crazy journey together. And you have to decide whether you can fit into that kind of culture. And, I don't want to get into culture, because I think culture sometimes is over-talked about, but culture is absolutely paramount for any team's success and building that culture.
Makes sense. I mean, I get it now, by the way. I'm ready to run through this podcast wall. Like, who wouldn't do? You could send me anywhere. I'm ready to go. Are you kidding me?
And that's some of the things that I can share, just spending the last 2 years that I have with Mark and learning from him. And like you said, you could run through the wall. On Saturday night, I was driving with my kids, and my son and daughter, and my son had some of his friends, and we were driving into town in Rhinebeck and past the fairgrounds, and there was a sign that said, event parking this way, race day tomorrow, expect traffic. And I don't remember who it was, but one of the kids said, can you do that? And I'm not a runner. I do train, so I know that I wasn't going to injure myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I went and ran the half marathon yesterday.
You
just did it. And the entire time, I knew I wasn't going to get hurt, because I was physically prepared. Yeah. No one should go do it if they're not going to make it, right? Like, let's caution that one. Right. But and I knew it was just going to be a mental struggle. But sort of pulling from my conversations with Mark, and sort of these 5 pillars, if you will, of dedication and preparation and ambition and focus and ultimately gratitude, I sort of pushed myself through those 13.1 miles. Second time I've only ever run 13 miles. I rarely run more than 3, or like a 5K.
You did it in almost like 4 hours, a little over 4.
No, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh, yes.
Which would put me on pace for a decent marathon. And look, all I wanted to do was keep one foot going in front of the other and finish and not stop running once. But, especially like, I never thought of gratitude as such a motivator, and sitting there running and just being so happy that I can do that, and that I was motivated by some of these things, and but just going back to what you said, like ready to run through the wall. That's how we want to inspire people. And you hear a story like Mark's very specific to this moment in time, but there's a lot of stories in those moments of time, and that we can extract them and really learn from them. And that's overall our mission, is to really help people through these stories that they can really relate to, because we've all grown up watching these moments. And I know exactly where I was in 1994, and no offense, I wasn't even a real hockey fan or Rangers fan. I mean, I was rooting for the Rangers because I was New York, and those other guys, you can't, Rangers, but I wasn't a diehard Rangers fan. But that night, that moment, that changed New York City history.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
But give me those 5 pillars. So those 5 pillars are essential to Game 7.
Yeah, it's really what we've identified as sort of those pillars, or those traits that you need to possess, or sort of want to emulate, and it's dedication, preparation, focus, gratitude, and ambition. And
I love that.
Each are important. We've distilled it down to 5. We started with probably 25. But it's really important, and that got me through that race. Just saying to myself, like, here's my ambition. It's to get through this without stopping. Here's my focus. I am prepared. Here's my determination. I'm so happy that I can be a beautiful day. All these things, and never once did I have a grimace on my face. Otherwise, usually I would have been like, what am I doing? I hate running.
I would have been doing that. I wouldn't have made me down in the race. But it just shows you can do it. But I think those 5 pillars are the zeitgeist of Game 7. Right?
Yeah.
It's trying to capture that.
Well, I think there's a reason why people are successful.
And that's what I really want to tease out here, because if it's the analyst at the bank to the CEO of the pharmaceutical company, what are they going to get out of this content and this lifestyle? What are you trying to get them to learn? That's what I really want. Because no one can be Mark Messier, but they can think like Mark Messier. They can perform like Mark Messier did in those moments.
They can prepare, they can focus, they can have empathy, they can have gratitude, they can have compassion, they can have all the things that I think it takes if you're in the... I thought I was in the hockey business for 26 years. I was basically in the people business for 26 years. And it's a big difference. Of course, I played hockey, and the hockey was a vehicle. But ultimately, we are in the people business, and we have to galvanize a group of players every September and form a team. And I don't use the word team lightly, because it takes a lot of work to become a team. Just because you come to training camp in September, you're not a team.
Right.
You're not even close to a team. So what is it? What are the triggers that are what are the motivations? For me, motivation, everybody that's a hockey player, everybody in business, everybody musician, everybody's motivated for a different reason. Hockey players I've seen come and go. They're motivated. Some are motivated for the money. Some are motivated for the fame, the relationships, whatever it might be. And so getting to know those triggers was important, but more importantly, I want to inspire you. I don't want to sit here and be responsible for motivating each and every player every day. That's got a short term, and then it becomes compliance, and then compliance gets into you got to do it because I told you got to do it.
That'll never work.
And that's a short term. And I think the coaches and the teams that have done it well get more into the inspiring the players. What inspires you to come here and give everything you have in your life to this team, to this journey that we're about to go on. I think that can kind of separate the philosophies a little bit, if you will.
Sure.
And I felt that, trying to get the best out of any one player, if you could help them inspire themselves, they would ultimately, take the next level there, and you didn't have to motivate. They would come in already motivated. And then we just got to figure out how to best use you in certain areas, or how you fit into the system, how you fit into the culture, all that kind of stuff.
It certainly works. And I imagine you have to play with it, right? Because I guess when you started your career in Edmonton, you had Wayne there, and you had other people, and you were the younger guy, and then you learned certain things, but you weren't the guy, I guess. And then you become the guy, and then you take what you like from those people and you make it your own.
Well, I've never thought of myself as the guy, because I just, you know what I mean?
I'll call you the guy.
I felt that I was so reliant on everybody around me.
Yeah.
I never had the talent, or I couldn't play like Mario Lemieux or Wayne. And so my success came from ability to galvanize a team and bring everyone because we're strength in numbers.
Yeah.
There's the gratitude.
The gratitude.
And I was grateful for the players that actually felt and would dedicate themselves to the cause.
Yep.
And you got to identify that very quickly. And people come into the team either through trade or whatever with some kind of reputation, good, bad, or indifferent. We just did everything. Just come in. We'll identify you. We'll show you how we do it here. We've created this culture that we know can be successful. We're going to give you every opportunity to come in here and to grab an oar and start rowing. Ultimately, it'll be your decision whether you can stay or not, because if you can't do that, if you don't have it in you to kind of conform and to come into the culture and be a part of it, there's a big red.
This isn't the right place for you.
This just
Yeah.
isn't the right place.
And
But the
sorts
reason
stuff
why
out.
teams and organizations fail year after year, 10, 20 years, they keep failing because they don't have a culture. They don't know who's good. They don't know who's buying in. They don't know what they're even asking for of the players.
Right.
So it's just
In any sport.
it's a hamster
In
wheel.
anything,
So it's just a shot in the dark. Oh, we're going to get him. We're going to get him. And meanwhile, the great people have come and gone because you didn't have the culture. There was nothing for them to fit into.
Right. It's not just looking at a pure athletic basis or pure, skill set.
Athletic basis is paramount, obviously. But if you don't have the character and the guts and determination to get out of your own way and surrender yourself to the team, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter in the end.
So, Matt, why do we need another sports media business here? There have been a lot of recent successes in the sort of celebrity, big athlete world. You obviously have Peyton Manning and Omaha Productions, who's on the program. We have LeBron and Spring Hill. Colin Cowherd has the volume. There are all these vehicles. Hello Sunshine. Why now? Why this? I mean, you have a great brand, sure, but why are you going to succeed? Why? It's a cluttered landscape.
Yeah, look, media is a component, but I don't look at us as a media company. I look at us really as that brand first, that IP first, that intellectual property that we're building. That I think all those people and companies you just mentioned, which are all amazing, and I watch all their offerings, and I think what they're doing is great. I think where we really differentiate is the focus on that IP and the building out of that IP, and it not just being about a show or a podcast or something specific, and it being a much bigger piece.
Again,
with the flywheel.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And on top of that IP is resonates so much with people today before we've even really put our arms around it and started to build the content and ultimately the community. Just in the last 90 days or so, as we sort of started to make a little bit of noise on social media and started to put it out there, the numbers have been pretty amazing of how we've reached people and the stickiness of it, because it's such an important
Everyone
thing.
has that association.
Everyone has that
For
moment.
here in
They
New
know
York,
where
it may
they
be
were.
Mark. It may be in Cleveland. It's something else.
So
et
to
cetera.
me, that's one thing that really differentiates us, and that focus of really focusing on that IP, building that community around one thing, not 10 different shows or 10 different properties, et cetera.
Well, and in fact, it feels, in some ways it feels, well, you're not that focused on any one thing. But actually, at least in my opinion, it's the way companies are going to be built in the future, which is, again, brand first, spokes of monetization, because really you're seizing on an endemic audience, a passion, and you're looking for all the ways to get at their wallet, which is, sort of commercial, but that's the point. It's ultimately a for-profit endeavor. And it may be the live event for these people. It may be the podcast. It may be the show. It may be the T-shirt. It may be all of the above, but it's not the channel. It's not the show. It's really about how they all complement each other, and I think that's what you're doing.
That's exactly right. And yes, ultimately it is for profit, and we will get to the wallet, but first and foremost, it's the heart. And we think that this really touches the heart, and we know it touches the heart. And hearing these stories, you're getting goosebumps, I'm getting goosebumps, and there's many of these stories to tell. And we're singularly focused. Like, you make a good point. Like, we have ambition to do all these things, and to be clear, from a business standpoint, we don't plan to operate all those things. And that's why on our content side, we brought in Connor Shell and Dany DeVito's, Connor Shell's Words and Pictures and Dany DeVito's.
They'll be doing some of the content.
Yep, and Dany DeVito's Jersey Film Second Avenue production company to help us with that. And like that in all of our sort of other endeavors and verticals, we will bring in partners who are actually operating those businesses.
And the
because,
best at what they do.
Yeah, best-in-class operators. There's no way we could do all that. But we will singularly be focused on those two words, and that's it.
Got it. No, it makes sense. I love Connor stuff. That'll be great. We're getting into the third period here. Not
overtime yet?
I went.
Is that your fifth? Is that your fifth reference?
We talked about how many hockey jokes I could make. I just wanted to touch on one thing. We spend a lot of time here at LionTree on youth sports and the youth sports industry, which is massive, as you probably know. Of course, we were here earlier talking with one of our leaders here at LionTree, and the first thing he's talking about is kids, and you knew the programs they were in and the teams. And there seems to be, and I'd love to hear how you've thought about it over the years, because in the 80s, or the 70s or whatever, you're a great athlete, you start playing hockey when you're young, you kind of figure out. Now it's like, if you don't have a stick and you're not scoring goals by age 4, you're not going to be in the NHL, right? And the parents, especially hockey's a brutal endeavor for parents.
Oh.
You're up at 5 a.m., right? You're taking your bags, you're going to Kalamazoo when you're based in New York to do a tournament. How do you think about that, Mark? You clearly were at the pinnacle of the game. You had kids who played, right? You at least one son was two sons who played professionally. What do you think about this whole youth sports industrial complex? It is quite intense, at least here in the United States.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with it. That this could be a separate show in itself.
That's
but
true.
I would say when I was starting playing hockey players were on par with doctors, physicians, lawyers. There wasn't a big delta in salaries and.
Yep.
And so it was another job. I grew up playing, a seasonal hockey from, October till, March or whatever it was, for 50 games, didn't travel, played all the other sports in the summer, and that's the way everybody did it.
Yeah.
You played soccer, you played lacrosse, you played football, baseball in the summer because it was a chance to become a more well-rounded athlete, for one, not put too much stress, obviously at a younger age, and overuse and all their injuries. The other thing there is that I've seen is a funnel-up effect. And we know all the travel programs are spitting out a lot of great hockey players. The problem with the travel teams and the demand that it puts on the families, first of all, it's super expensive. Not every child is physically ready for that at any certain age. And so we're basically cannibalizing 90% of our athletes that aren't ready for that, don't have the financial support to do that, or the family structure in order to go to a road trip every weekend.
Right.
What are we doing with the other 90% of the athletes that aren't ready, don't have financial support, aren't physically because of the birth date or just because they're basically left behind.
Yeah.
So basically we're cannibalizing all sports and our talent that's available if we had programs that spent just as much time and energy as elite programs for the kids that aren't ready to check at 14. They're just too small. You know what I mean? It's the chance of getting hurt but they could spit out of that if we gave them just as good as coaching, just as much ice time and all that, because now they're going to let them their bodies kind of develop and mature and be more ready for it. So I think it's a problem in that regard.
We're overdoing it?
It fits it's good. The program. I'm not dogging the program at that level because it does fit some profiles very well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't fit all the profiles, and we're not doing a good enough job on the profile of the player that doesn't fit it.
Right, who isn't that fast,
ready,
that early.
Already there, physically,
'Cause it compounds,
emotionally,
right? Yeah.
financially, they don't have that. But what are we doing to help them continue to play. And then
Right.
you never know. And my guess is if we did just as good a job on that side of it as we do on the elite level, there would be kids that spit out of it. They would spit out of it at a later time.
Right. Or not. Yeah. Or just stay fans and stay like engaged in the sport. Right. I feel we.
But
burn out.
overuse, you know, we see it on all sports.
Right, you have to focus.
More coaches won't allow players to play. You know, if they don't come to practice, they can't play because they're at lacrosse, and then they can't play the football game. I mean, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
You
No.
know, we should be telling or encouraging
Do
our
it
kids
all.
to play multiple sports, especially at a younger age. And of course, everybody wants to win, but the old mighty W trumps everything at that age, right? Everybody's got to win, and you got to be there.
That's the intensity. That's when they could use the mentality. and
You
tricks.
guys just did a transaction in the youth sports space, right?
We've done a number.
Yeah.
We've been lucky to be around everything from Cal Ripken, speaking
Yeah,
of
that-
another
that-
legend, Ripken baseball, to Game Changer, to Pixel-Out, to Play On. You know, we really believe in it, and technology enabling both content, but and also engagement. So, and it's a very fragmented space. And from a business
maybe we need to
opportunity-
think about Game 7. Game
Yeah.
7's reaching to youth
Yeah,
sports.
you do. You gotta, but hopefully doing it the right way too. But in those examples, you see how much spend is going into this. You see how much focus, and frankly, I don't see it changing. It is what it is.
Oh yeah. Well, as soon as you put the money into it, you know, from the training, to private training, all that. You're right. It's the cat's out of the
It's
bag.
staggering,
Yeah.
and no one does it. You know, every parent wants that advantage or wants to make Johnny or Joni feel like they could play in college or whatever. It's just an interesting thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
That's what
But
I
as a
agree with
business opportunity, it's very fragmented, it's very big, and it continues to grow. So anyhow, I was just curious as your thoughts.
We'll
Okay.
sidebar on that.
Yeah, we'll sidebar on that. We're ready to go. So overtime here. Well, we've kept you way too long. You have much more important things. But we have just a few questions, as we do on most of these shows, to get to know you guys a little bit beyond just the story or the business. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions about some of your interests. That's it. Very easy. Lightning round. No sudden death. Mark, what's a podcast you listen to beyond KindredCast? I know you listen to the LionTree one, but are there any
course.
ones you recommend?
Well, this is
course,
my
beyond the-
favorite.
Yes, thank you. Keep going. KindredCast is number 1. Thank you.
All the episodes.
This is the 150th episode.
Wow,
What an honor.
Woohoo! Is
Yeah.
there streamers or something?
Yeah, right. Like, okay.
Uh,
Do you listen to podcasts? Audiobooks?
yeah, I would say if I was going to listen to, say, Joe Rogan,
Yeah. Okay.
I really like him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how about this? This is a music one, and Matt, you get to answer this too because I know you're the music guy. But you know how in baseball, when they walk up to the
Yes.
they get a song.
Yeah.
If you were a baseball player, what song would that be?
Oh.
I like this question. I just came up with it. Wow, that's a good one.
I got so many. I'm a music lover. God.
What
darn.
song defines Mark Messier?
Oh,
You want to come back
I'm
and
gonna
have
come
Matt
back to
answer?
that one.
Okay.
Wow, that's a
All
good
right.
one.
Wow, I love myself.
I will
Matt.
answer that, but I do want to answer podcasts.
Yes,
too,
yes,
because
please.
I have become very into this one. One, I listen to your podcast
Thank
all
you,
the
thank
time.
you.
But
Keep it coming.
Acquired.
Yes. I recommend to everyone.
I have become, I don't want to say obsessed, but
I've become
I mean,
obsessed.
I listen to it when I work out. It's unbelievable. And the breadth of stories they tell, from the LVMH story to Taylor Swift to, it's just awesome.
I'm so glad you said that. I so recommend it's these 2 VC guys who
Great.
just talk about a business or
Yeah.
a league for 4 hours, and they just
But what's
tear it
amazing
apart
is the storytelling.
in a good way.
And you don't,
Yes.
you never really, I've never seen that before. Maybe it
Yeah.
exists somewhere else out there, but I've never heard somebody tell the story of a company in that sort of magical way
Yes.
of storytelling. And
Costco,
it's,
Nike,
yeah,
LVMH.
the Nike
it's
one is
incredible.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
It's-
Acquired.
every one of these
Great
can
show.
become a movie.
Yes.
Anyway.
Should I
Their
write that-
Game
should I write
7,
that down?
you should acquire. We'll send it to you. But those Game 7 moments for those entrepreneurs is really incredible.
Exactly.
That's
That could be the
our-
sub
there you
podcast.
go. We're here working for you.
Yeah, there we go.
Song, your welcome song.
That's
Come
that's-
on, guys.
Oh my goodness, there's
Final
so
countdown?
many out there.
Maybe Sanitarium by Metallica.
Oh.
It starts out like really sort of melodic, but then
Yeah,
gets really.
start amping.
Yeah, like
Okay.
that. That song pumps me up when
Okay.
I'm in the gym.
All right, Mark.
It might not be a great walkout song because you need to let it evolve.
Let it run for a while.
So it'd be a very
Now with the new
long.
baseball
As soon as
clock.
I leave her, it's gonna come to me. I'm gonna
All right,
oh
so
my
we'll keep
God.
moving. I'm going to come back at the end. All right, how about a book? You may have one.
I loved Ernest Shackleton's Endurance.
Good
It was
one.
amazing. It was a incredible story of leadership at it personified.
And this is Mount Everest, right?
No, they got
No.
caught on an ice floe, and they spent
floe.
a year and a half
Yes.
or more on an ice floe, and he got everybody back alive.
Amazing.
And there was one guy that he threw in jail when they got home for insubordination.
It wasn't good enough that they just survived. He had to jail guy.
After a year and a half on the ice floe and hard labor, and dug themselves out and did all this crazy stuff on these smaller boats and survived all the cold with, you can imagine the clothes back then and all that, like nothing like we have now, and survived it all, and then only to take the one guy that was a real pain in the ass.
Jail.
and
That's
put him in jail.
captaincy. So Endurance by Ernest Shaw. You have a book yourself, though, yes? Let's get a book.
No One Wins Alone. I wrote it's been a year and a half, 2 years ago now. No, I guess a year and a half
Wherever
ago.
books are sold.
No, yeah.
Is there an audiobook?
There's an audiobook as well, yeah.
See, there you go.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
all
you.
right. Yeah,
No One
do a
Wins
plug,
Alone.
We're here.
No one does a podcast alone.
No
like
one
this.
does it. Absolutely not. That would
Look
be
at us all in
that would
here
be a
putting this whole
monologue
thing
here.
together.
We got 19 people in here. Matt.
I was gonna say No One Wins Alone. I was definitely.
come on.
I was very
There are a lot of
inspired
books
by
out
it.
there.
There are a
Yeah.
lot of books. My wife has me reading some Thich Nhat Hanh these days, which is very interesting. And I don't. There's one, The Art of Communication, which is quite interesting as well. But empathy-related books.
Okay.
I
get a lot of those.
And I've always been a big fan of the Art of War.
Art of War.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love
The Art of War
Okay.
is. Everybody should read that.
I'm not going to remember the title, but I did just listen. I didn't read it. I listened to it. It's Jordan's, or was it Phil Jackson's, like,
Sacred Hoops.
no, executive sort of coach. I'll look at it and
Okay.
we'll come back to
All
it.
right.
Yeah, I love Sacred Hoops. Pat Riley, Winter Within. Those are really inspiring books.
Pat Riley, there's a legend.
A legend, and still doing it, still
Still doing
successful. Talk
Did
about
you watch Winning Time?
Yes, talk about creating a culture wherever
God,
he's gone.
wherever he's gone.
Wherever he's gone, he's still doing it in Miami now. After all these years, he's a
It's
legend.
really remarkable.
How is Winning Time stopping after 2 seasons?
I know. Well, we'll get into a whole Hollywood talk if you want to in the economics there. But I was going to ask, a show you've streamed recently, is it Winning Time, or is there a favorite show? You're a big Peaky Blinders guy, or something that you've watched that you recommend? Welcome to Wrexham. I don't
goodness.
know.
I would say the last one that I watched, which was pretty crazy, was Godless.
Godless.
Yeah,
I don't know. What is that on?
it's like the Western. Has anybody here seen Godless? No, not even heard of
I'm a
it.
crowd.
Well,
No.
there you go.
Okay.
That's how good popular
All
my
right.
choices are.
Is that Canadian TV?
Everybody's going Godless. Wait a minute, what was that
What
one?
was that one?
I don't even know why I watched it, but I ended up
But by
watching
the way, a
it.
bonus one. What is your favorite sports movie of all time?
Ooh, can we go Slapshot? Can we-
Okay. Oh, okay, fine. Easy one.
Now
Was that or Mighty Ducks?
Now it's legendary. Now after all these years, I just watched a
Slapshot.
clip on it the other day. It's such an iconic
I mean, it
movie
actually
now.
plays through. Okay, slap that. Matt, show.
New show. I really enjoyed this last season of Untold. Netflix.
Yeah, those are good. The Balco one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
shameless.
good. But really good this particular season.
Yeah.
And then I just sort of on the weekend have started to rewatch The Sopranos,
Oh
which
my gosh, that's a big
it's been what,
endeavor.
10 years
Does
or
it age
something.
well?
Unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
I highly recommend
I
watching
gave him a
it again.
sports movie. What's a can't miss concert for you?
That's not fair.
No, come on,
There's
just
been
give
so
one.
many.
Just like you have to.
Um,
if this person's
memorable,
in town, stop everything.
Rolling Stones, because
Okay, because sure.
they're
Right.
because they keep going.
I just saw the U2 at the Sphere. That was pretty.
Did you
amazing.
go?
I went, saw them back to back nights. Unbelievable.
Is it as incredible as
It
people
is.
say? I'm going. To
I did.
one.
I hardly took a picture because I knew that taking a picture was never going to do it justice to send to everybody.
Wow.
And I just told everybody, just do yourself a favor, buy a cheap ticket on
Yeah.
a junket to Las Vegas, buy a ticket and go watch it.
It's changed.
It is just revolutionized the whole live music.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
Music Man.
Yeah,
That's
I wanted
that's
to
a
go. I
go.
didn't.
Have
Go,
you
I
met
haven't gone
Bono?
yet.
I briefly down under MSG. I was just happening passing by, and he was kind of walking, pacing back and forth. kind of get rehearsing, getting ready for the show there, and just kind of give it a quick.
What his Game 7 moment? Who knows?
I'm
right?
sure he has a few.
Well, we'll tell those stories.
I'm
at
sure
some
he
point.
has
We
a
can't
few.
wait. And that's a good way to wrap it up. There are so many stories.
We're going to end it with Bono on Game 7. That's a pretty
Yes.
good way to end it.
We
right?
did
I
it
like
all
that.
here. Well, Matt, Mark.
And we did it our way.
We did it our way. We're here. We've been here hours. But I'm so fired up for what you guys are doing. We are so appreciative of your time today and for sharing your story and your Game 7 stories. And this will be a really exciting endeavor. So thanks again for joining us.
Looking
here.
forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Looking forward
guys.
to it. Looking forward to come back and keeping you updated.
Yeah, please do. We'll be
will.
upset if you don't. We got to see how this thing all plays out. But we're excited. This should be an exciting one.
Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more KindredCast conversations from leaders in business and beyond.